You just did it, maybe 30 seconds ago, maybe 2 minutes, maybe you did it right before you pressed play on this video. A quick glance, a thumb swipe, a check of nothing in particular. You already know you do it too much. You've known for a while. You've probably tried to stop, left your phone in another room, turned off notifications, set screen time limits that you override within the hour. And every time you reach for it anyway, there's that small familiar feeling of failure, like you're weak, like you have no self-control, like something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you, but something is very, very wrong with the explanation you've been given. Every article, every documentary, every productivity guru will tell you the same thing. You can't stop checking your phone because of dopamine. Because social media companies hired psychologists to make apps addictive. Because the algorithm is designed to trap you. All of that is true, and none of it is the real reason. The real reason is 50,000 years old, and it has nothing to do with Instagram. Here's what your brain was built to do. Your ancestors lived in an environment where missing a signal could mean death. Not inconvenience, not embarrassment, death. A rustle in the grass, a shadow at the edge of the firelight, a sound that didn't fit the pattern of the night. These weren't distractions, they were information, critical, survival-determining information. And the ancestors who noticed them lived, the ones who didn't. So evolution did what it always does with a survival problem. It built a solution directly into your neural architecture. A monitoring system so automatic and so persistent that it runs constantly, without your permission, beneath every other thing your brain is doing. Neuroscientists call it the orienting response, and it is one of the oldest reflexes in the vertebrate nervous system. The rule is simple. When something changes in your environment, a sound, a movement, a light, anything that breaks the existing pattern, your brain stops what it's doing and redirects attention toward it, automatically, involuntarily, before you consciously decide to look. You don't choose to check your phone when it lights up. Your brain has already redirected your attention before the choice is available to you. But here's where it gets interesting, and a little uncomfortable. The orienting response doesn't just fire for real threats. It fires for anything that could be a signal, anything unresolved, anything unknown. And this is the part the dopamine explanation misses completely. In a 2016 study at the University of Chicago, researchers found that uncertainty, not reward, not pleasure, not even the anticipation of something good, was the primary driver of compulsive checking behavior. Participants checked their phones most frequently not when they expected good news, but when they didn't know what was there. The unknown notification, the unread message, the number badge on an app you haven't opened. Your brain cannot leave these alone, not because they're enjoyable, because they're unresolved. Because in the ancient world, an unresolved signal, a sound you couldn't identify, a shape you couldn't place, was the most dangerous thing in your environment. Your phone is a machine that generates an infinite supply of unresolved signals. Every notification is a rustle in the grass. Every red badge is a shadow at the edge of the firelight. Your brain responds to both with the same urgency, the same redirected attention, the same compulsive need to resolve the unknown before it can resolve into something that kills you. Metal bust. Now layer on top of this what the tech companies actually did. They didn't create the mechanism, they found it, and they built an entire industry around exploiting it. Variable reward schedules, the same principle that makes slot machines impossible to walk away from, were deliberately embedded into the architecture of every major social platform. You don't know if the next scroll will show you something interesting or something boring. You don't know if that notification is important or irrelevant. The uncertainty is the product. They took a 50,000-year-old survival reflex and gave it a fire hose. Your brain's orienting response evolved to scan an environment that changed slowly. A savanna, a forest, a camp of 30 people whose faces you knew. The number of unresolved signals in your entire day might have been 5, maybe 10 on a dangerous day. Now you carry a device that generates hundreds. The mismatch between the system and the environment it's running in is total. Your ancient monitoring software is trying to process a modern signal load it was never designed for. And it can't stop, because stopping, in the world it was built for, meant something might kill you before you noticed it. It means the failure isn't yours. The self-control you keep trying to apply is the wrong tool for the problem. You cannot willpower your way out of a reflex that predates conscious thought by millions of years. Every time you've tried to just stop checking and failed, you weren't failing at discipline. You were trying to override a neural circuit that exists specifically because the ancestors who could override it didn't survive. The circuit won. Of course it won. It was built to win. What actually works? The only thing that's been shown to work in the behavioral research isn't suppression, it's substitution and environment design. removing the unresolved signals from your visual field so the orienting response doesn't fire in the first place. Phone in a drawer, not a pocket. Notifications off, not silenced. A different room for focused work, not because you lack willpower, but because your brain physically cannot ignore a signal it can see. This isn't productivity advice. It's evolutionary biology applied to an environment your ancestors never had to navigate. There's one more thing worth sitting with. The same system that makes it impossible to put your phone down is the system that kept every single one of your ancestors alive long enough to become your ancestors. The monitoring never stopped. The alertness never fully switched off. The need to resolve the unknown before the unknown resolved into something fatal. This ran continuously, for every waking hour, for 300,000 years of human existence. You are the descendant of every person who checked, who looked when something moved, who didn't ignore the signal. And now you live in a world that has figured out exactly how to weaponize that, and sells it back to you as a personality flaw. You don't have a phone addiction. You have a survival system running in an environment that learned how to exploit it. The question worth asking isn't why you can't stop checking. It's why we built a world that turned your greatest evolutionary strength into something you feel ashamed of. That's what this channel is. Every week, one behavior that feels like a personal failure, explained by the 300,000 years that made you exactly who you are. Days a one quam. And there's a second layer to this that almost nobody talks about. The orienting response is triggered by change. But there's another system, older, deeper, that's triggered by social information specifically. Your ancestors didn't just survive in an environment of physical threats, they survived in groups, small ones. Tribes of 30 to 150 people, where your status, your relationships, and your reputation were as important to your survival as your ability to detect predators. Being excluded from the group meant death. Being out of the loop, missing information that others had, meant vulnerability. So the brain developed a second monitoring system layered on top of the first, a near-constant sensitivity to social signals. Who knows what? Who said what? What's happening with the people whose opinions of you determine your place in the group? Your phone doesn't just deliver notifications, it delivers social information. And your brain treats every unread message, every unseen comment, every unknown reaction to something you posted, as a potential status signal from the group. Miss it and you might fall behind, and the group might close ranks without you. This is why you check after you post something. Not because you expect to enjoy the response, but because the uncertainty of not knowing how the group responded is genuinely uncomfortable to a brain that evolved to monitor group dynamics continuously. The tech platforms didn't invent this either. They just found the frequency and built a transmitter. 50,000 years of social survival wiring. One device that broadcasts on all frequencies simultaneously, all day, with no off switch. Of course you can't put it down. One last thing. The next time you reach for your phone for no reason, mid-conversation, mid-meal, first thing in the morning, notice what you feel right before you reach. There's a faint discomfort there, a low-level restlessness, something unresolved that you can't name. That's the orienting response. That's your brain detecting a potential signal and refusing to leave it unresolved, because in the world it was built for, unresolved signals were the ones that killed you. You are checking your phone because you are human. Because being human means being wired for alertness in a world that no longer requires it, but found a very profitable way to exploit it anyway. That's not a character flaw. That's 300,000 years of getting it exactly right.